Magyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namashrishtam Manamapi Satchiputram Matraswarupam Rupam Tasyagrajamuro Purim Maturim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaram Maho Radhikamadhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratitha Gripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natasmi Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Nikhilashvrate mole ratnamaladhyate nirajita padapankajanta Aji mukta kulairupashyamanam paritashvam harinam samshrayami Anarpitacharim chirat karunayavatirana kaluham Shamarpaitam sabhakti shriyam Hari purata sundara dyuti kadamba sandipita Sada hridaye khandaresh purato va sachinandana Janulambita bhujjo kanakavadatam Sankirtanaikapitaro kamalaya takshu Vishwambaro Dvyavaro Jugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Ladini Shakti Swarupaya Gaurangasho Hridaya Cha Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namastate He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamrita Vahine Kripaya Nijapadabjadasyan Mahyam Pradiyatam Bhaktya Bihinaya Aparadha Lakshay Kshiptascha Kamaditarangamadhye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanam Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Brinde Namaste Charanarvindam Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaur Nityananda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Gaur Gadadhar Ji Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radha Go Madan Mohan, Radha Govinda Dev, Radha Gopinath Ji Ki Jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Praman Hari Go. So good evening to all of you. Pranam. Welcome. Thank you so much for the invitation. One more time for accepting the invitation, for extending it, and for accepting it. Because at the end of the day, we are all being invited. You are being invited, I'm being invited. They are inviting us. So we are all the guests, so to say. And at the same time, as guests, we have to learn how to be good hosts of the divine grace and the divine invitation that is coming to us. So yeah, Istagosthi, as we say these days, basically has to do with Arjuna, right?
Yeah.
Arjuna. Pleasure to meet you. So Istagosthi has to do with this idea, no, of revolving around Gosti, reuniting, getting together, a togetherness around the Ishta, around that which is worshipable for us. That person, those values, those principles that we want to keep on top of our heads and make them worthy of our pranam, worthy of our eternal namaskar, so to say. Like Brahma will say in the Bhagavatam, Yam prayasa mudapasya namanta eva. He has these four heads, Brahmaji, which think in the four directions. So he's a very comprehensive thinker. And despite that, when the time comes to address the highest truths, his four heads start to spin, like it happened in the Brahma Vimohan Lila. His conclusion was, the best thing I can do with my head is not so much to think about for myself and trying to figure out reality, but Gyam Prayasandapasya Namanta Eva. But to put my head on the ground and to put the highest reality on top of me, and I will know more by doing that than by trying to figure out by myself independently. So that's what we are trying to do here in Istagosthi. Although physically our heads are here, we are not all there, but somehow we are trying to incline one another into the depth and the beauty and the greatness of the ultimate truth, and trusting that the getting together in that spirit will reveal something that is not possible to be obtained by ourselves without getting together in that same spirit, right? So that's Sankirtan, ultimately. That's the Sankirtan of Mahaprabhu. It's getting together. As we say the other day at Pranadas, we mentioned how Kirtan is not limited to musical praise of Bhagavan. Kirtan is also speaking about Bhagavan, trying to say something about the unlimited, as challenging as that sounds. Say something about the infinite. It's like, okay, where to begin, where to start, I mean, where to end. So Kirtan means singing the name of Krishna, of course, but Kirtan also means talking about him. As we say in the Bhagavatam, the example of the perfection of Kirtan is Sukadev Goswami. And his perfection in Kirtan was all about Kirtan, Bhagavad Gita, trying to say something about the Absolute. So that's Kirtan. And when we get together to say something and to listen, we can say that's Kirtan, that's Sankirtan, because it includes this Sangha, Sankirtan, Sangha Kirtan. It's a togetherness in our attempt to properly honor the all that the ultimate reality is about, which we have no clue what's that, but we are trying to get closer to that. As long as I say I have a clue about what the ultimate reality is about, again, be ready for your head to spin like Brahma did. He was sure he knew who Krishna was. He had lots of certainties, and when he wanted to access the intimacy of Vrindavan, Krishna felt, you cannot enter here with all that big foreheads with so much certainty. You need to have your forehead spinning and being thrown into the land of uncertainty and being willing to coexist with the mysterious and the unknown. If not, there's no place for you here. So also we want our heads to spin. That's my point. No? We are not only getting together here to trying to figure out Krishna and ending the meeting like, okay, now I know Krishna fully. I capture him. Probably the opposite may happen. Probably our certainties about Krishna may be dismantled, hopefully, and we may go back home with a new set of deeper uncertainties, so to say, a deeper I don't know. That was the result of Brahma. Brahma knew something about Krishna, knew a lot. He had darshan of Krishna, the beginning of creation. That's something. To have darshan of Krishna, he's extending his hand like a friend instructing you, Chatur Shloki of the Bhagavad, and that's something. But at the end, after having darshan of Braja Krishna, one of his last prayers in the Brahma Stutis, those who say, I know Krishna, okay, I pranam to them from a distance. I don't dare to say that anymore. I used to say that. I used to speak assertively about Krishna. I know who he is. I saw him at the beginning of creation. Probably I was the first person to see him in the whole universe. But now that I really saw him, I'm not so sure who he is. I'm more attracted than ever, but I'm not so sure about my set of certainties. So he's more uncertain, but more attracted at the same time. So that's interesting. Those are the kind of paradoxes that we need to embrace and integrate. I may get more and more attracted to Krishna, and I may understand him in one sense less and less, or I may be less and less willing to understand, and more and more willing to be attracted and and follow that attraction. That's basically the psychology of the Vrajavasis. They don't care to understand Krishna, although they know Krishna more than anyone else. But they are not trying to understand him. They are just captured by his attractiveness and loving him. And that's the deepest form of knowledge. Raja Vidya Raja Guhyam, says the Gita. And the king of knowledge is bhakti, love. So anyhow, that's what we are trying to do here. That's why we are invoking this sacred togetherness and circle among all of us, trying to go deeper into this direction. So that's it. Trying to briefly set some tone to our meeting. You are invited to present questions or topics or something you may like to share, to explore further, specific questions, challenges to the Swami. You can bring them to the table. We have a table here to illustrate that. Whatever, feel comfortable to. Yes. Recall me your name, sorry. Bhaktilata. Ganasham told me, but I could only recall Arjunaji's name. Yes.
So I guess it's been percolating in my mind the word hospitality.
And
so I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the role of hospitality in our Vaishnava culture, what it means, kind of what is its role in kind of the revitalization of our own spiritual life, if it has a role, and maybe any reflections from Shastra, how, like, what's the importance of hospitality?
Okay, thank you. Of course, probably the best person to ask that is your dear husband. He works as a chaplain, and he is I imagine hospitality is, he doesn't not only may work in the hospital, but it's interesting the connection between words, right? So, but for the brief time I share with Ganasham, and knowing friends like Dina Bandhu or Kul Pradeep who work also as chaplains, you can really see, okay, hospitality must be there in terms of hosting, right? Or sometimes we use this expression nowadays that I like, holding space, right? Holding space for people, like creating safe space for them to be, for them to be all that they need to be, which basically means for them to be who they are. But sometimes there is no holding of space, and sometimes we are not feeling like, okay, I can unfold all that I need to be because there are constraints in the environment. I'm not feeling that invitation. For me, that has a lot to do with the idea of hospitality, because for me, hospitality is not just a protocol, like formal thing. Okay, Maharaj is coming, where's the garland? No, and you have to have the seat and the wall. I have nothing against that, but it's not just like checking the boxes of how to be a good host externally, and internally, I don't care for holding space, so to say, right? So something that comes to mind when you were asking the question, apart from your husband, was this line from the Vedas, Atiti Devo Bhavam. No? Somehow that may be the one-liner about hospitality par excellence in our tradition. Okay, Arjuna is confirming. If the son of the chaplain says so, Tatashtu, so be it. Thank you, Arjuna. I need some support. So Atiti Devo Bhavan means you have to treat an uninvited guest as if it were God himself. So what's the idea of that, of course? No, the idea of that is not only in terms of...
This is why I asked my question first.
No problem.
Keep going.
Yeah, no problem. So Atiti Devo Bhavan means not only, okay, an invited guest come and he's like God himself in terms of you are expected to treat God nicely, so treat the guest nicely as well. Yes, of course, on some level that's the idea, but on some level it's more, in one sense, God is coming to you through that person. No, like we were talking these days on this quote by a Western contemporary author. She will say, "God comes to you disguised as your life." Now, that's a powerful line. I'll repeat it again for better impact. God comes to you, Krishna comes to you disguised as your life. Sometimes we are, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? In the immediate daily circumstances that are knocking on your door, you have to learn to see him there. So my point is, those are the guests. And you are to treat an uninvited guest as if we're God himself, because it is ultimately. No? The line seems like as if it were God himself, but when you do that properly, you realize it was not as if it were God himself. It's Krishna himself coming to me through this situation, through this person, through this uninvited, unexpected life circumstance. So I am to find God there more than ever, especially in those circumstances that invite me to inhabit the periphery of my comfort zone, so to say, like to go outside of the known and the certain, and like to be put in a situation where I have no control over the circumstance. Clearly, overtly, I didn't have control before either, but I thought I had. And in this situation, I realized I have no control, and I can find God there, so to say, open myself more to that, be put in a liminal space, so to say. So that's a line that comes to me in terms of hospitality, because again, how willing I am to honor that, to receive the guest, how willing I am to treat that person or that situation, which is Krishna behind, in terms of hospitality. For me, that will be the ultimate hospitality, so to say. Like to conceive every single situation that knocks on our doors, Krishna coming to visit us unexpectedly, like he did, as we know, with Vidura's wife, for example. It was an uninvited guest. So treating him as if he got himself, well, in this case was Krishna himself, literally knocking the door and telling Vidura's wife, "I'm hungry. I'm hungry." And she, as we know, ecstatically peeled the banana, threw the bananas, and gave Krishna the peels. That doesn't seem five-star standard of hospitality, right? But Krishna not only received the peels, he ate the peel, which is kind of shocking. I mean, if you see someone offering the deity banana peels, you kick them out from the temple, probably. Right? But in this case, Krishna was like, he was not noticing the peels. He was just eating the bhakti of Vidura's wife. So that's what Krishna says in the Gita. Patram pushpam phalam tuyam yomi bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti upahritam ashnami priyatatmana. He says water, leaf, flower. In one sense, the implication with that is, I don't care for that much. But twice in that verse, he says bhakti. So that's his standard of hospitality. Yeah, water, flower, fruit, leaf, whatever. But your heart. Twice he said bhakti, which means your heart. So that's basically Bhagavad Gita's hospitality, so to say, standard. It's not just a formality, but just, yes, there may be some external presentation, but if it's devoid of heart, Krishna is not hungry. No. Krishna's gut starts to make some noise when he perceives bhakti. When he smells bhakti, he says, "Oh, I'm hungry." Someone say, "But you just ate." "I'm hungry." No. That's his diet. It's based on bhakti. It's not based on milk products. Sometimes they want to insist on that to justify their willingness to eat milk products all day long. But Krishna's diet is based on milk products mostly. No, Krishna's diet is based on bhakti. They take the form of milk products in the Leela. But if you offer milk products without bhakti, Krishna doesn't even see the offering. He only has eyes for love. So So yeah, I will say that maybe I'm going many directions, but it's hopefully all in the context. I'm not leaving the perimeter of the main theme, hospitality. So yeah, first of all, I will say we have to have that foundational hospitality in terms of welcoming God to our lives on a daily basis, however He may like to come and visit us, especially as an uninvited guest, unexpected circumstance. We want to say Om to Him, like we were talking these days. Om in Sanskrit literally means yes. If you go to the Sanskrit dictionary, one way to say yes in Sanskrit is Om. And interestingly, most of the main treatises start with Om. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadiyasya Tanvayadita. Om. So Om means yes. Like it starts with a yes. No, we have to start with an ontological yes, like accepting the guest, receiving, being, how to say, hospitable. That's how to say. So being hospitable, yes. No, someone is knocking. Very good. No, thank you. Welcome. Right. Done. So yes, no, the guests are coming. We are talking about guests knocking on our door.
Like, where are those guests?
Okay. Good. Actually, we made a rehearsal the other day with them, so it was just in time. So thank you. Yeah. So yeah, please welcome. You can see it. So that will be one degree of hospitality, huh? And also, I would say another way of course, of expressing that will be. There are many ways to talk about this, but one that comes to mind is try to see that there's this verse in the Bhagavatam which basically says, for example, try to see the world as Krishna is seeing it. So you can extend the same idea to try to see everyone through the eyes how Krishna is seeing them. And when you go to the scripture, it says Krishna is Karuna Sindhu. Krishna is an ocean of mercy. Krishna is Suhridam Sarva Bhutanam. He's the best friend of every living entity. So you want to be hospitable? Okay, extend God's glance to others through your own glance. Right? So that's another way of being hospitable, of treating people, receiving them. Now, hospitality has a lot to do with receiving. So we were talking the other day in one lecture on self-love in bhakti, how like Richard Rohr told me, I like it, that phrase when we did our podcast the other day. He told me God is the total receiver. He gave that name to Krishna. The total receiver. He has already received us fully. God already accepted the soul fully, unconditionally. So God is the total receiver, the most hospitable person in that sense, receiving the soul fully, without judgments, without conditions, without waiting for till you are perfect. Sorry, it's not happening. But send me a message when you are perfect, I'll receive you. I'll open the door for you. I'll say Om to you. Krishna says Om from day one. That's one of his names, actually. If you go to the Vishnu Sahasranam, again, the 1,000 names of God, one is Om. So one name of God is yes. That's interesting. The name of Krishna is yes. He who already said yes before even you were aware that he existed. He already said yes to you. He already accepted you into he's already been hospitable to you. Whether we want to go with him or not, knock on that door or not. So that's another way of being hospitable, to realize the hospitality of God toward each soul and feel totally moved by being asked unconditionally loved by Bhagavan, and now extending that to others, to those who are not aware of that reality. And to those, as we talked the other day, I think with Rachel and someone else, maybe Katie was there, we were talking about, okay, some people may not believe in this and say, I don't believe that God loves everyone unconditionally because my life was miserable for this and this, so he cannot love me, certainly. So that person doesn't believe that there is something called unconditional love, probably until and unless you act as an agent of that and you show that person, you give that person the experience of being fully received, fully accepted, and that person cannot deny that when that's happening, right? So in that way, also that's hospitality, no? And that's a way of holding a space. Again, holding space, creating safe space means, I don't know, I don't have a clue who you are, but Krishna accepts you unconditionally, so I'm trying to do the same here. No? So that's, of course, easier said than done. But that's a challenge, no? That's a challenge. No? The challenge is to create safe space, as we were talking the other day. I don't recall with whom at this point, but once you create safe space, basically everything else happens on its own. You don't need like to craft, okay, what we do, how we say, how the situation will unfold. You just create safe space, and everyone will feel so invited to be who they are that just getting together, being who we are in safe space, whatever has to come as a result of that will come out of its own. But to create the safe space, that may take time. No? To craft, to hold space in a way that everyone feels confident and open and safe to, like be naked in one sense internally, like I can be fully vulnerable here. I'm totally accepted, totally received. There's no risk, no abuse, no. But I mean, that may take time to create that sense. But for me, that's also hospitality. Again, it's not to be reduced to a mere formality of garland, seat, glass of water, and one gulab jamun. No. And then you kind of beg more hospitality. I mean, I put a gulab jamun in your mouth. That's that's the ultimate level. No, it's not the ultimate level. So yeah, our tradition is so much about hospitality. Even Indian culture is so much about that. But it's important that we see all the layers of that, no? All the layers of that, and how we should treat each other in our communities, in our families. Because as I say, familiarity breeds contempt. So sometimes we can get accustomed to, oh yeah, my wife, oh yeah, my kid, oh yeah, my friend, my brother, and we lose sight of here is a soul that Krishna describes in the Gita 229 as Ascharya. Here's someone who is amazing in Krishna's opinion. Krishna says that in the Gita. Every soul is amazing. But we lose sight many times because we are reductionistic, and we see each person generally for all the non-amazing stuff that we think they are, that we ascribe to them. And we lose sight, here's an amazing soul which is unconditionally loved by Krishna. So how I'm supposed to relate to that, how I'm supposed to honor that, instead of saying, oh no, I cannot bear this guy with this anartha and this stuff. I mean, you are just grasping the surface of the thing, and that's not the person at all. No problem.
I'm gonna go tend to him.
There is some room there if you need.
Okay, around this.
Can you show? Okay. Yeah, we have the baby emergency room just in case. Yeah. No, please. Thank you for the question.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll conclude the question here. So she got the full reply. And we have also place for other questions if you may have, or topics. Yeah, that about hospitality. Pleasure to meet you. Can you call me your name? Radharani Leela Devi. Okay. Yes.
I was really appreciating Bhakti's question and your answer to her question, and I was curious if you could expand a little more on what you started to touch on in terms of how that relates in familial situations. In cases, like you said, where familiarity can sometimes breed contempt or just become complacent in that.
Mm-hmm.
And in cases where maybe there's been harm done, either physically or emotionally, how we can strive to uphold these higher, principles and practices, while also embracing and embodying our humanity and the realisticness of the circumstances. How do we kind of make those healthy compromises, but in light of bhakti?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And of course, as usual, I'll give a general answer. We are not addressing any specific situation, although maybe when you are asking the question or when you are hearing the question, our mind may go to, how do I deal with this particular case? No? So hopefully something I say applies to all of those cases. But yeah, we need to go even beyond that and see, but accept that each case is different. And of course, when I'm saying unconditional love and acceptance, that also presupposes that we have a common sense to apply that in different ways according to the situation. No? Because if I'm dealing with someone who has abused me or abused someone, and I consider it's a threat, okay, that soul is loved by Krishna unconditionally still, but on some level I had to take some measures and stances. It's not that unconditional love just means like, okay, here's the key of my house, this is my social security number, I love you unconditionally. No, it doesn't mean to be naive or stupid. It's just but at the same time it entails, as we talked the other day, somehow or other making the proper arrangements to not fully lose sight of the actual reality that still that there is a soul there. Although she doesn't behave that much as such, there's buried, so to say, on top of, below all that stuff, there's a soul which is amazing, which Krishna loves. So not lose sight of that fact. And sometimes we may need to take distance in the spirit of honoring that relationship. No, Rupa Goswami will say in the Upadeshamrita, no, you have to love Krishna, be friends with the devotees, be compassionate to the innocent, and take some distance from the envious, he will say in general. So my point is, he's mentioning you should learn to relate with people, and it's different with different people, and there's place for taking distance from some people in the spirit of serving them. I mean, all those four relationships are all service. No? How relate to Krishna in service, how relate to a Vaishnava in service, how relate to an innocent person, serving, how relate to someone I need to take distance. I'm taking distance because that's the best thing I can possibly do in this situation. No? I would like to do something else, but it's not possible now. But hopefully I don't become resentful. So when the chance of getting closer comes, no, I say, no. You follow? Sometimes I may need to take a distance, but in time, there is a place for bridging that distance. So there's place for that as well. So regarding familiar relationships, as you were asking, of course, it's complex because we tend to get accustomed to things and people. We tend to like get accustomed and just comfort zone. That's my reality. And many times we need to break those patterns of like predictability, because if not, it starts to become like ordinary. Like I know who my wife is. I know who my children are. No, you don't know. You think you know. You are taking for granted something that is amazing. Again, going back to Krishna's words, Bhagavad Gita 2:29. If you don't believe me that you are amazing, you go there and you listen to 3 lectures of self-love and bhakti. but yeah, I would say we have to be creative in our relationship. So we are constantly renewing our approach and perspective to each other in relationships that are very on the day-to-day. So we don't take for granted each other or thinking, oh yeah, I know who Katie is. Archana Siddhi, of course, 6 years already, we know each other, I know her. So by being so certain, we deprive ourselves from the experience of awe and wonder that is so vital for life, for everything. No? The more you lose sense, awe and wonder, as we were talking today, no? Surrender. We hear surrender so much, no? And it's not surrender only to Krishna, but it's surrender to everyone. No? Ideally, I don't know, wife and husband, they have to surrender to each other in their own way. To their kids, in trust, in confidence, in intimacy, there is a surrender. But ideally, surrender has to happen shouldn't happen by coercion, pressure, and fear, but out of awe and wonder. I feel awe and wonder, and I surrender to that. Awe and wonder, and I want to give myself to in that direction to that person. So, I mean, I'm a sannyasi, so I have no experience in terms of marital relationships. So I don't want here to play the professional counselor. But at the same time, I've got to hear a few testimonies throughout the last 25 years. So some experience, third-hand experience is there. And I will say that, yeah, it's very important to be careful not to fall in those places where everything becomes predictable, monotonous. We start to see the other person and put the person in a box. I know who you are, get this toxic sense of certainty, and sometimes becomes reciprocal, and after a few weeks and months both are suffocating and both think sometimes even I hate you. Not only I cannot bear it, but because each one is developing such a foreign idea of each other, actually, that they see there is a monster over there, and vice versa, because they totally lose sight of the living reality of the soul being amazing and being always open to rediscovery. So that's an art in every relationship, I will say, at least in the ones that I have to go through, which maybe, of course, marital relationship is not part of my rasa department, but with all the other relationships, it's an investment of will and agency in terms of learning to not rush into concluding about you, about who you are, what you think, how you. And it's so easy to go there. I mean, I do it a lot. I'm not free from that. No, I'm not coming here to say I'm perfect, but it's so easy to think that you know the other person, to anticipate what the other person is feeling and thinking. No, we have that tendency trying to control the circumstance. No, we are not comfortable sometimes with, again, coexisting with uncertainty. Right? So we want certainty. But sometimes that too much certainty, again, becomes suffocating. We need uncertainty to create movement and creativity and space and wonder. If everything is predictable and certain, there's no news, there's nothing else to do, to share. So it's over. Many times that happens like that. So that's what's coming to my mind in this moment. No, like it's a discipline. I'm not saying it's easy. It's like part of the daily work. Not only working, earning money, changing the diapers, or cooking or cleaning, all that also, but also spending some time and thought about how we keep our relationship, whether couple, any other relationship that you care for, how we keep our relationship fresh, how we continue to get to know each other. And of course, that's tied to the idea of how willing we are to know ourselves also. Because if I'm not willing to know myself more, probably I won't care about knowing anyone else more. Probably I'm like, I know who I am, therefore I know who you are, and you are this and you are this, because I am this. So it's like, again, this type of closure that we try to bring into all the situations instead of keeping disclosure like a constant. Generally, we are all about closure. I'm like, okay, closure. This is it, box, label, certainty. Control freaks, basically. But that's not how reality operates ultimately. It's all about disclosure, like the willingness to know you again, to the willingness to die and be born again and discover who I am, all that I can be in potential. That's an ongoing journey. And those are the types of relationships that ideally we are supposed to have in eternity. They're not stagnant. It's not like, again, I know Krishna. I'm in Golok Vrindavan, so that means I know Krishna. So I can say who Krishna is. That won't happen in Golok Vrindavan. I was going to say, you'll kicked out from there, but no, that won't happen even. And that's why nobody will be kicked out from there. So everyone is on a constant present state of rediscovering who Krishna is and who they are in connection to him. It's a daily affair. There's no single day that Krishna remains the same. That's a challenge. Imagine relating to someone who never remains the same, who is unpredictable in nature. Not dysfunctional, but unpredictable, transcendentally unpredictable. As we were saying the other day, one name of Krishna in the Vishnu Sahasranam is Biala, which means snake. and the translations are always, he who moves in a mysterious way like a snake. Because love moves like a snake, Rupa Goswami says, Gavati Premna Shabhava Kutilabhavet. Unpredictable. Krishna is unpredictable. There's no single day that you will catch him in the same place twice. There's no single day he will call you with his flute from the same destination. Always a new address. You follow? So he establishes that standard. He sets that pace. If we are to establish a loving relationship with God, be ready for adventure. Not for statu quo. Krishna doesn't like statu quo. He likes adventure. He's adventurous. One name of Krishna is Urukrama. Urukrama means the great adventurous. Krama means like steps, like Trivikrama, Krama, Anu. And Uru means like tremendous. So he who does tremendous steps, which is another way of saying the great adventurer. So connection with him means adventure 24/7 for eternity. So my point is, okay, we are not there fully, but if we want to get closer to that, we have to somehow get closer to there here and now, like train ourselves to agree with that lifestyle, so to say. Because if every invitation of adventure, of uncertainty, of unpredictability is like, no, thank you, no, that's another way of saying no to Krishna, who is all that. Because all those invitations here now actually are him trying to get closer to us. So yeah, and sometimes again, this has to be, in relationships, this has to be like officially stated, like, okay, we need to spend, like, it may sound a little bit like, but okay, one day a week or some hours a week, we need to spend some time out of the familiar, rediscovering each other. Let's go to an unusual situation. Let's break the monotony of how we do things always, and let's do something unpredictable. I mean, I'm not saying do some nonsense complete, but something that puts us in a different space, a different place, and that will allow us to see each other from a different place. Oh yeah, you also were this. Also, oh wow, you have this, whatever. So we have to be experts, not only in couples. Again, every one of us, as we were talking the other day, when someone asked last week about Ekadasi, let's ask. So what's Ekadasi about? Because he asked, I don't feel satisfied how I follow Ekadasi. I just abstain myself from grains, and I don't think that's what Ekadasi is ultimately about. So I don't feel a motivation to follow it, he told me, because I don't feel anything. I'm just abstaining from grains, which doesn't sound like the great celebration, like the great ritual, like the great experiences. Don't eat grains today. That's Ekadasi. So we were talking about, no, it's not about that. I mean, it also includes that, but in one sense, it includes these 2 days a month, trying to break the way you do things and spend those 2 days, as much as you can, of course, like creating a different, we use the word bipolar. Bipolar can be bad, or that person is bipolar, but also in this case, I refer to generally, and we were talking with some devotees recently with Tamal and others, generally our life dynamics are unipolar. Like they're going one direction and we do things in one way. And I'm not against that. Of course, we need some order. It's not like just wake up and chaos every day. I'm not saying that. But also too much order can be a problem. Too much disorder is a problem, but too much order is also a problem. We may become rigid, narrow-minded, and we lose sight of Krishna's unexpected call and invitation. So this unipolarity in how we do things, okay, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, okay, Kadasi comes, now be bipolar. Like, in other words, create another polarity, which goes in another direction, where you break the cycle of how you do things and create some sacred disruptance, sacred. No, so I don't know, you stay a little bit longer at night, you sing, you prepare some ceremonial space, you create some different situation from the usual, which puts you in a different place and allows you to see you, others, reality, from a different place. But sometimes you need to make an effort for that to happen, and even organize in advance. If you just wait for the epiphany to come out of the blue, I mean, it may be coming, but you are not seeing it. Sometimes we need to make some effort to, let's go somewhere else. Let's make some movement to have the experience, right? So yeah, sometimes relationships need that, no? Like, I remember recently I was talking with a friend, and she told me she has a brother, and the two of them are devotees, and she told me, yeah, after my brother married and had kids, and she went to the ashram, and I mean, we are still brothers, but after living together at home when we were teenagers, each one has their life. So somehow you carry the idea of, okay, he's my brother, but we never again share time, the two of us together by ourselves, because each one has their own, of course, responsibilities and so on. But at the same time, she realized we are missing that also. And he's someone else, and he's growing and changing. So why not? And I suggested to her, why you don't go with him for a weekend somewhere? And she was kind of taken by surprise, like what? But at the same time, I was like, well, I never thought about that, but it makes sense. That will be good to rediscover him, and him getting to know each other. But sometimes we need to leave our usual circles behind, and okay, let's go 3 days to an island, so to say, no? And rediscover each other and return with renewed energy. And again, I'm sharing just some ideas, but I think there's always some, how to say, whenever we step out of the familiar on some level, there's always a new perspective that we can acquire from that. Especially, and I think all of us also know that if we are in life circumstances which suddenly, boom, throw us to a completely unexpected place, and by force of circumstance, at least I talk from my experience, you are seeing reality from other place. You have to see yourself from another place. You have to recreate yourself by force. There's no chance of going back. Certain things happen. It's like, okay. But that shows you a completely different picture that you never saw before that. So you needed the disruption, so to say, no? So yeah, that's how sometimes I interpret prayers, like Kunti Devi's prayers. Vipada santu tatsat bhat tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanat sasyat apunar bhava darshanam. She asked for Krishna, send me more troubles and suffering. It sounds like masochistic or something, but actually I feel more like, take me out of my comfort zone. And the more you do that, the more I see you, she says, basically. The more you put me in those new situations, I gain a new perspective, and that allows me to feel your presence even more than in the accustomed corners and places and situations. But you're still present, but I lose this, the capacity of seeing you there. So yeah, we need that. Sometimes we can force ourselves to do that, or if we are not willing to that, no problem. Life itself will take care of that. We will receive our healthy dose of disruption and liminal space and uncertainty, because it has to happen. And even if you live your whole life avoiding that forever, at one point you have to leave your body, and that will be disrupting, especially if you lived your life trying to avoid that. So my point is, even how life is happening, design is meant to take you to those places. If you exercise that in this body, when you have to go through the ultimate disruption, if you want to call it like that, quote unquote death, that will be okay, because you were trained in that. But if not, that will be disruptive. So, and that's not the idea. So if we have died enough times in our life, the official moment of dying won't be felt as such. It's just, okay, just another one. And that's what prayer is about. No? Remember, Richard Rohr told me, prayer is a training in dying. I was like, okay, I like the definition. I mean, I'm intimidated by it, but I like it at the same time. Real prayer is a training in dying. It's like entering in certain spaces where you have to die to certain ways of thinking, ways of seeing things, and let go patterns and layers and be born again. You have the born again Christians, we are born again Gaudiyas, but the born again doesn't happen once in a lifetime. It has to happen every time you go for prayer. Dead again, born again, dead again, born again. And that's the same with a relationship. In a relationship, you have to die so many times and be born again to each other, rediscover each other. If we hold too much to a sense of identity, that's problematic. And the other person probably is there in our life to invite you to die to that part of you. But if you are not letting that go, you will feel this person is my enemy. But that person is just being instrumental in what you need to let go. But if you don't realize that, you start hating the other person. But the problem is, when you reject that person, then other person comes and is instrumental for the same thing. So what's the conclusion? Do I have to hate everyone else? No. They are trying to show you what you need to work on. So as difficult as that is, it's never impossible. And that's how life operates, as we were talking today. We are forced to have relationships because you need to go through them to work on these things. If you are not working on these things, on relationships, difficult by yourself, generally we just bypass over and over again and justify and create our own delusional picture of who we are, who everyone else is. But when you expose yourself to relationships with others, okay, there we see who we are actually in community, so to say. And in Golok Vrindavan, it will be us in community. Interestingly, in Vaikuntha, there is a type of mukti, Salokya Mukti, which is you can be in the same planet as Narayan, but not necessarily you have to be there in the hub of Vaikuntha. You can be in your own place over there and just contemplating, meditating, not dealing with all this messiness of community life. But Golok Vrindavan, that's full communal life. I don't want to send you to Vaikuntha, just in case that's not my point here, but just, yeah. It's daily living, 24/7, interaction, family, and the messiness of that. But of course, there is full harmony and full love, and so we are training in that direction as well. Yeah. I don't know if that makes some sense. Any sense?
That was incredible. It felt relevant on so many different levels. So
Okay.
Thank you.
I don't know, your Ramayanita didn't inform about any specific situation. I'm just talking in general.
She's a therapist.
Okay, I didn't know that either. I'm just talking and trusting that Krishna will make the rest. I cannot make that the part he makes, so just
Very helpful.
okay. So I'm professionally supported by the therapist here. What I said is somehow it's legal. Okay. Okay. Pranam. Thank you.
Pranam.
What's your name?
Amartya.
Amar?
Amartya. Amar.
Amar. Okay, Amar.
So I was I watched 2 of your lectures last few days online, and based on that I have like 2 questions.
2 questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. First one.
First one is like in lecture 1 you were saying like everything is Krishna, and that way you can justify your actions towards these things. Or so do you mean like every living being is Krishna, or every object is Krishna, every reality is Krishna? What is?
Okay. Let's say something. I'll go there and then we go to that one.
Okay,
Because the other question is not related to that.
not related. to
Okay,
that.
so let's go to that.
Okay.
So, what do you think? Is everything Krishna or not? A note of caution, Arjuna Siddhi, very good. So, on one sense, yes, we could say everything is Krishna. Vasudeva Sarvam. It's not me saying that, it's Krishna saying that. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 19, I think. But how does it start? Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Thank you, Nagaraj Prabhu. Jnanavamam Prapadyante Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sadola. So there Krishna is saying Vasudeva Sarvam. Everything is Vasudeva. Vasudeva is another name for Krishna. Everything is Krishna. Sarvam Kaloidam Brahma, says the Upanishad. Everything is Brahman. Everything is the absolute. And of course, different schools of thought will take those lines in different ways, but those lines are there in the scripture, so we cannot just deny them. So in one sense, everything is God, but in our particular school, we will qualify that statement quickly. Like Arjuna Siddhi mentioned there, reminded me about Achintya Veda. Our metaphysics, our philosophy is Achintya Bhed Abhed, which basically means everything is God and everything is not God at the same time, which is Achintya. That's like paradoxical, how it can be. So in which sense everything is God? Because in one sense, all that exists is God and his energies, and all the energies of God do not have a separate existence. They do not exist independently of God. So in that sense, they are inseparable and therefore one in that sense. To give an example that is used in this regard, example of the sun, an example of the light of the sun. So we can say, oh, there's the sun and the sun shining on the room. The sun came, the sun entered. But yes and no. The sun came, but not the sun, the rays of the sun. But you cannot separate a ray from the sun. I cannot bring you a ray of the sun to you. It's not possible. A ray only exists with the sun as its foundation, so to say. The moment you separate that, which you cannot do, it stops being a ray of the sun. So in the same way, or the material energy, there are 3 main energies described in scripture: Swarup Shakti, Tatastha Shakti, and Maya Shakti. Spiritual energy, love, bhakti, we, jivas, and material energy. So these 3 are Shakti or potency, and God, Krishna, is called Shakti, Shaktiman, or the source of potencies, or the potent one, the energetic source and the energy. If you want to be reductionistic, the only thing that exists is Shaktiman and Shakti. That's the whole of reality. And Shakti is inseparable from Shaktiman. Therefore, they are one in that sense, not in every single sense. So our tradition, like every other mystical tradition, is non-dual, which non-dualism basically proposes there's only one reality. That's how the Bhagavatam begins. Advai Gyan, Vadanti Tattatva Vidas Tattvam Dat Gyan Anatbayam Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan is Shabdite. There's one reality, non-dual consciousness, which means there are not many realities. No? There's one reality, and everything that exists is part of that reality, is connected with that reality, is inseparable in its own way from that reality. So in that sense, it's one, but there is difference. That oneness, that inseparability is what allows relationship between individuals, for example. I mean, all of us are souls, individual souls, separate souls. I mean, in the sense that I'm not Shyamala, Shyamala is not me, but in one sense we are one because the two of us are connected with the same center. So the fact that we are connected with the same center allows for connecting with each other, for having something in common, which is common enough above all the things we may not have in common. That's always the going back to relationships, no? When we have so much not in common, and it's so important to keep in mind the common foundation that we all share, and on that basis relate to each other. So basically that will be the idea when we say, or what I said, I'm sure if I said everything is Krishna, I'm sure I say something like this after that. I don't think I say everything is Krishna, end of the lecture. Because that can lend itself to misinterpretation. In the sense that other traditions, Advaita Vedanta, for example, they will say everything, not Krishna, they won't say that, but they will say everything is Brahman, everything is the absolute, but in every single sense of the term. That's what we call radical non-dualism. They will say, actually, your idea of being an individual soul, your idea of this world, all that is illusion. You ultimately, there's only Brahman. That's their take, their Vedantic take. You ultimately, there's not even merging in Brahman, because there's nothing else apart from Brahman. They will say, you cannot even say that. You just can't realize you are that. Which, of course, I won't enter into the details now of why we disagree with that. But we will say, reality is non-dual. There's only one reality. Everything is interconnected with that. But there's a nuanced non-dualism. No? We call it radical personalism. I wrote a whole book on that and a whole chapter on non-dual thinking. So in that sense, everything is Krishna. Whatever exists doesn't exist isolated from Krishna, disconnected from Krishna. Everything, this table, you, me, this glass, whatever you can conceive, doesn't have a reality of its own separated from that common center. In that sense, everything is God. Which is a very important point to understand. I don't think in our tradition we have enough foundation of this non-duality. And we have so much diversity and details about Krishna, and what's the name of Krishna's earrings, like an extreme detailed description of everything, that if we don't have a proper non-dual foundation, we can drown in an ocean of diversity, and we can become dualistic. And I say that a lot. We have so many faces of God that if you understand all of them are the same person, you end up like acting as a polytheistic person. No? Like I say sometimes to devotees, when you speak about Mahaprabhu, Vishnu, Krishna, Vamandev, Varaha, Nrsimha, do you actually realize that they are the same person? Or you feel like they are different gods? No? And sometimes devotees will tell me, no, actually I address them like different people. But they are the same person. So we need to have this non-dual foundation in place properly. Second question. I hope that helps.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for the question.
So well. The second question was like, you were saying at one point like self-love and bhakti should be balanced to progress, right? So so firstly, like, what is this self-love? Like, right? Like for instance, if like in all the books like Raja Yogas, like all these yoga books that are out there in the temples, so they said that there are 4 things like meat eating, intoxication, illicit sex, and gambling. Yeah. So if I find happiness in one or two of these things, let's say, and I'm having self-love, so is that self-love too?
No.
So how do you define self-love then? Like,
Yeah, of course. Of course, when we speak about self-love, doesn't mean that whatever you feel is giving you happiness, just go on with that. Of course, you can do whatever you want. No, I mean, we won't be interrupting everyone else's life. No, if you think, for me, Swami, it gives me happiness to drink alcohol and do that. Okay, I mean, what I will do, I won't just jump on you and stop you from doing that. But if we really want to, that's why you use the term self-love in bhakti. So in connection to bhakti, self-love, self means the soul, basically. Self doesn't necessarily mean our sense of self, our acquired sense of who we think we are. Because in that idea we think we are, we may develop a whole sense of things, that whole sense of what's good or not, what gives me happiness or not, and that's not self-love. That's why once, I remember once someone asked me something similar. Can we love ourselves? Is it possible to love ourselves? And what came was, first we have to know what's love and what's ourselves. Because if we have a wrong idea about what's ourselves, who we are, and a wrong idea about what's love, in the name of loving ourselves, we may be doing exactly the opposite. So by self-love, and I try to make that point in the maybe in that class or in the other ones, we are referring to who we actually are. So first of all, we need to know who we are, and we can love that, the Atma, the soul, the potential, the bright potential of the soul. Krishna refers to all that, as I said, as Acharya in the Gita. 3 times he uses that word. The soul is a unit of wonder. Acharya means wonder, amazing, astonishing, miraculous, shocking. So Krishna is saying, you are shockingly wondrous. You are a miracle unto itself. You are amazing. The soul is amazing. Again, he's not saying our conditioned tendencies to degrade ourselves and exploit others, that's amazing. You have to love that. No, he's not saying that. He's saying, but you have to learn to contact who you are. When you know who you are, there's place for loving that. Because that will be in the context of loving Krishna, not loving who I am as a soul separate from Krishna's love. But that's the point, the main thesis that I shared in that class was, we want to love Krishna. Bhakti is about loving Krishna. And loving Krishna entails loving the things that Krishna loves. No? Prabhupada will say, if you love me, you love my dog. So if you want to love Krishna, you have to love the things that Krishna loves. And I happen to be one of those things. Krishna loves me. So, and I'm not saying that, oh, you are proud, Maharaj, how you will say that. No, it's not from a place of pride. It's deeply humbling. Because I realize the way Krishna loves me is absolutely unconditional. It's not that I made some personal merit for him to love me. I earned his love by my super special skills. On the contrary, all that I did was in the opposite direction, and he loved me. So Krishna loves me. I want to love him. Loving him is loving what he loves. He loves me. I have to learn to love that. That's what I'm meaning mostly by self-love in bhakti. It's not like, okay, I like to do this. I have this habit. I love myself. So that's delusion. That's cheating. I mean, I know that many people without any bad intention try to express self-love still from a partial perspective, and I'm not condemning them. I'm just saying, if we really want to love ourselves, which I have nothing against, the best thing you can do to love yourself is first to get as accurate as you can picture of who you are, and as accurate as you can picture of what love is. So if you really want to love yourself, we are totally in for that. But the best thing we can do is to learn what's love and who I am. And the more accurate picture we get of that, the more actually we can be loving ourselves. Because if not, in the name of self-love, the opposite may be happening. And we may be distracting ourselves and harming, so to say, ourselves. And we don't want that. We want self-love. So that would be something in that
So
connection.
what's the balance? Like you said, there should be a balance
Balance in,
self-love and bhakti.
yeah.
But if you're self-loving, you're saying like you're loving Krishna or bhakti already. So why should there be a balance then?
I'm not sure if I understand the
You
question.
were
Arjun Siddhi?
saying self-love without bhakti. It's not self-love
Yes.
and bhakti without
Yeah.
self-love.
Yeah.
It's bhakti.
Yeah.
So that's the balance he's asking.
So that's, if I'm understanding correctly, if Arjun is understanding correctly, let's see, the balance is, again, we love Krishna, but we don't hate ourselves or forget about ourselves in a dysfunctional way in the name of loving Krishna. No? And we love ourselves, but not in a dysfunctional way that we become self-centered and narcissistic, and we forget to love others. And we understand actually loving one means the other. I mean, one entails the other. If I want to love God, I have to love everything else. Whatever he loves, which happens to be everything else. And I'm included in that equation. So I have to love that, as hard as it is, because generally we hate ourselves. Generally, we are not very generous to ourselves. We talk these days, many things that we will never say to anyone, we tell that to ourselves on a daily basis. So it's not so easy. When I say love yourself, it's not a fancy new agey thing in the comfort zone. It's one of the most hard things we can try to do. Learn to love yourself from the proper place, as someone who is loved by God. So for me, that's the balance. You don't need to discard one. You don't need to discard the other. You don't need to stop loving Krishna to love yourself. You don't need to stop loving yourself to love Krishna. We just need to understand how the two are inseparable, actually. Because loving Krishna means loving what he loves. And he loves everyone. Everything. Because he is love. I mean, Rasavai Saha, Taittiriya Upanishad say, which means he is rasa. Rasa is the highest expression of love. So he is love. If you are love, you cannot not love. You follow? Krishna doesn't have love. He's made of that. So he cannot go against that nature. As we said the other day, that's a limitation he has. God has limitations. One limitation is he cannot not love. He cannot, because he's made of that. You follow? I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks for the question. So what time is it? I don't want to tire you, but we have a few minutes.
10 after 7.
10 after 7. We have a few more minutes, Arjun Siddhi.
Sure. I mean, do we have a few more minutes?
I mean, the question is, are you that hungry or you can wait? Let's be direct. Sorry?
Hungry for your.
Some also for whatever it lies on the other side of the... Yeah. Mahara, yes.
How do you know that we're out of our comfort zone? I mean, are we in our comfort zone or we're just trying to stay balanced? When I see you, I see, that you really are out of your comfort zone most of the time. Besides,
Thank you. Thanks for the praise.
The time when we're being forced out of our comfort zone, Krishna's really talks it to us. But other times when we're just trying to stay balanced, or maybe we could do a little more, but
Yeah.
We're kind of sometimes like it seems like kind of like doing in the comfort zone just because it's really like after being out of the comfort zone for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're scared to get out of it.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's why I mentioned before when I talked about disorder, or it's not that everything can be disorder. You need some order. We need some comfort zone. It's not that just live outside of the comfort zone forever, because comfort zone is I'm not saying that. Because it's too much. At least for most of us, it's too much to be always outside of the comfort zone. We need some certainty. We need some structure to. If I wake up and I don't have a clue how anything will go, probably it's too much for me now. Maybe in a hyper advanced stage, I'm fine. I fully trust the unfolding of reality and Krishna's flute playing, whatever that may create. But again, we have to be balanced, and balance means different things for different people. No? So that's a point also. We cannot imitate what balances the other person, because what balances you may disbalance me. No? The type of balance you need is not healthy for me, or vice versa. So that's, again, what Krishna says: follow your nature even imperfectly, and following someone else's duty perfectly. It entails this idea. So I think we have to be connected to our personal experience, and which is challenging in itself, but we need to gain grounding in our own pratyaksha, in our own personal experience, and pay attention how I'm feeling. I'm getting too comfortable. No, it's starting to become like toxic, predictable, boring, stagnant. I mean, we kind of feel when that's going on. Or again, it's becoming too uncertain, too out of the comfort zone, and I need some reference, which is also necessary, of course. No? So, and there will be times, as you mentioned, no, there we may need some chapters officially thrown out of the comfort zone for a few days, weeks, months, years, depending the case. We may need some, after that we may need some balancing, or some, okay, give me a break from the unknown, so to say. I need a little bit more of predictability now. I need a good dose of certainty. It's okay. There's place for that. There's place for all of this in the different situations. No? And again, each one has to know that for yourself. You cannot just expect the other people to know that for you and provide that, because they may be in their own needs and journey of how much do they need of all those same things. No? So, like Krishna says in the Gita, yuktahara viharasya, no? Like everything should be done in a balanced way. No? Sleeping, eating, recreating. No? So sometimes you may need more recreation than some other moments, because you are just coming from a super hardcore, out of the comfort zones chapter, and you need like, I need to relax for a while, and it's okay. It's not like, how can you relax? That's too much relaxation. No, that person may need that. No? And in another moment, there's no time for that even, because you are being called upon something else. So, but I would say the principle is to keep that as balanced as you can. No, it's not just like, again, being brutally looking for out of the comfort zone things at every possible moment, because that can become an ego thing also. No, like, okay, I'll go out of the comfort zone again and again, and I'm more out of the comfort zone than nobody else, and I'm maybe going crazy, and I'm getting dysfunctional. No? And I need some perimeter and parameters and balance, because I'm too much outside of that, and I don't have the capacity to stay that longer outside of my comfort zone. I need some shelter in one sense. But again, not to the extreme of getting attached to that. And every time the call comes to leave that, we are like frenetic and paranoid and neurotic, because what may lie there outside of the comfort zone, I don't know. So, I mean, again, strictly speaking, every day we have to have our dose outside of the comfort zone. Prayer, chanting should be that. Sadhana, the core sadhana of our day, should be done outside of the comfort zone. Because, again, not like a forced extreme thing, but like a willingness to inhabit new spaces, as we were talking before, the willingness to explore new inner landscapes, the willingness to hear Krishna when I'm chanting, the willingness to open myself in prayer, surrender, accept his call and invitation, wherever it may take me, however it may. That's out of the comfort zone, right? If you are chanting or praying from a very like predictable place, this should be happening, this will be like this, Krishna should reply, that's you won't have much of an experience there. No? Like I remember there was a good quote that was said, but Wim Hof, you know Wim Hof? He said that was a good quote, and he has his insights. So he said, in order to have an experience, you need to be outside of your comfort zone. Experience doesn't happen in the comfort zone. Experience in terms of like an epiphany, like an insight, like in that growth, maturity, you need to be outside of your normal perspective because you need to acquire a new perspective. So, and again, every day, on some level, we have to willingly go there. On some level, those situations will come to us. But also on some level, there has to be some willingness to go. There's not just, okay, by myself, I will never go that unless I'm forced. It's like, doesn't sound too healthy. You know, we have to collaborate a little bit. So some willingness to be there, a little bit, and we return to our certainty. We go back. We try. Okay, it's not so dangerous. Oh, I can survive. It's not so bad. Next time I spend 5 more minutes and 10 more minutes. Oh, I can spend eternity here. Someday we need to reach that conclusion. Okay, I can spend eternity out of my comfort zone. And of course, that creates its own comfort, right? Because these are words. So out of the comfort zone sounds bad because there's no comfort, but there is another type of comfort. No? Srila Saramash will call that home comfort. So, because again, the Brajavasis are in one sense eternally out of their comfort zone, but voluntarily are there. So they're happy there. They're choosing that, celebrating that. And there's so much comfort outside of the comfort zone. That's right. We have to get this paradoxical language. It works like that. Outside of the comfort zone, the real comfort is there. But we have to be willing to, again, coexist with uncertainty, with the unknown, with the things that lie beyond our control, basically, which is basically everything. But outside of the comfort zone, you realize that. You're confronted with it. In the comfort zone, it seems I'm controlling most of the things. When you step more outside of the comfort zone, you realize, oh no, that's not a fact at all. And you need to survive that fact and be okay with that. So when we are okay with that, we celebrate that. I don't need to be the ultimate controller. Phew, such a relief. There's someone else doing that part from me, way better. So I need to be myself. So, yeah. And of course, part of the relationship with a guru or with elders, with people that we trust, it's also that, we trust that people who care for us, who love us, or who are more advanced are guiding us, they will take us by the hand outside of the comfort zone. They will tell us things or teach us things that will make us think from different ways, in different places. And that's outside of the comfort zone. My ideas will be challenged. My ways of seeing reality will be put to test. That's outside of the comfort zone. Comfort zone is all this set of certainties and securities. And outside of the comfort zone lies, again, a deeper certainty, a deeper security, but need to let go of the other ones, which at one point will feel like a risk. That's why Srila Saramash will say, at the beginning of our journey, we will feel, after hearing this type of stuff, you will feel too much risk and no gain. So you will be like hanging of your comfort zone forever, like too much risk, all that stuff that Saffron guy is talking about, and no gain. So I'll stay here with my safe stuff, my secure place. But the more you hear and enter that, then you will realize and reach another realization, which is the more risk, the more gain. Oh, that's another way of thinking. The more I risk, the more I gain. Wow, that sounds paradoxical, but it works like that. So you gain some encouragement for that. And then Srila Srinath say, finally, you will conclude no risk, all gain. Actually, you were not risking anything. It was all gain. The sense of risking was an illusory one because it's tied to a false sense of possessiveness and control. So I'm risking all this stuff that actually I'm not in control of, what I think of. So yeah, it's part of the subjective experience of awakening, so to say, right? I hope that helps, Mahara. Thank you for your question. Okay, we're almost there, but hands keep bracing. So Vedamata and Chamala. I will conclude there so we don't overextend. And I may not reply in super extended version, with your permission. Yes, Vedamata.
I was just going to add what you said about praying to Krishna to take you outside of the comfort zone to make spiritual advancement. Takes a lot of nerve, takes a lot of bravery.
Yep.
Takes a lot of heart, takes a lot of soldier. You know, you gotta be a kshatriya, you gotta take this on, you're gonna like beat this, you're gonna beat it with Krishna's help.
Yeah.
It takes a lot. I don't know how people get brave enough to ask for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not me. It's not me, Krishna. I'm not asking for it. I never heard me pray like Kunti. You never hear me say, oh, send some more trouble. Oh, no, I'm not doing that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do it right now. That's so true. So I just think that these devotees are so amazing that can take on so much for Krishna and get out of their comfort zone and feel the pain and the suffering of the material world. How do you even get that brave? Can you just give me a box of books and I'll go to Walmart? Can I please Krishna that way? Do I have to do this? I don't want to do it this way. Sorry. It's too hard. It's just too hard. I'm sorry, Mother.
No, don't say I'm sorry.
He's already done
I
it.
was gonna say.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
done. Oh,
Yeah.
It's the top of the list of what you have.
Yeah.
You're like at the top of the list. Oh, I have you tricked.
No, after what you went through.
Oh my
Most of
God.
us couldn't come.
No, don't apologize, please. We are here holding space for each other. So it's part of the nature is to be vulnerable and share how we feel and which are our struggles. And we are all in this together, right? So although there's part of the journey which is individual, at the same time, you are not alone in all this. No? We are not alone. We are here to support each other. And sometimes I know that that's some of the most difficult things is that when we feel I'm by myself in this battle, so to say. So it's so important to share our journey with, like you are doing now. So I really appreciate that. Thank you for that. And by the feedback that I receive, I'm very clearly seeing that you are doing your part. and we have to have, and again, I know these are sensitive situations, and each of us may be going through very complex things, like I know in your case, and of course, each one of us have our own lot of stuff to go through. So here we are not to compare each other, who has the most Kunti-like lifestyle, so to say. So, but we have to have this, at the end of the day, trust, like, yeah, Krishna is there with me. Like as you say, you have to enter into a Kshatriya-like spirit. No wonder Bhagavad Gita was spoken in a battlefield. And no wonder each one of the main characters of our scriptures are confronted with very complex scenarios. Again, Arjuna was in a totally perplexing situation. Parikshit Maharaj, okay, you have 7 days to live. I mean, that's absolutely out of the comfort zone. No, but the point there is like these situations also keep our heart open. No, like lots of love keeps our heart open. Lots of pain keeps our heart open as well. I'm not suggesting suffer as much as you can, but pain has some purpose. It opens our heart and makes it to be present, willing to take shelter, willing to receive mercy. And we have to trust that there is no single situation that comes to our life that we cannot pass with Krishna's mercy. I mean, if something comes to our lives, Krishna knows we can pass the test. He knows. He won't send something that we cannot pass. But to pass it, we have to take shelter in Him, not by ourselves, of course. Right? But yeah, there will be moments of brokenness and shattering and world falling apart. Many of us maybe have gone through that. We are not here to compare. Again, I suffer more than you, and that's not the way to offer support to other person. But also to create empathy, like we are all in it together. So to also know, okay, it's not only me going through all this and only me suffering or passing through all that. This is part of life's experience. It makes us human. It makes us aware of our fragility and vulnerability, and it puts us in a place of openness to grace, further openness to grace. And as much as we may not be able to understand, that's Krishna wanting to give Himself to us in a greater way than ever before. Even if we are not getting it fully, why you have this style? Why in this particular way? But in time we will understand. In time everything makes full circle, full sense. And meanwhile, we are in the, how to say in English, the eye of the storm, in the Trinavarta. We have to take shelter of each other. We have to take shelter in our tribe, community, family, friends, brothers, sisters. We need each other again. We need that also. We need days. There are days that we lose hope. Probably there are days we do not see any purpose and meaning, no matter how much philosophy you can replicate in your mind. And you may just need a brother, sister, friend that just a Bhakti Rasa who is holding you and embracing you, or whomever, and that's all we need for that day. You know, and we need that. There are days we only need that. So going back to hospitality, we have to be willing to provide that to each other, because we have to know everyone will need that at one point. But yeah, the fact that you are going through all that, and at the same time here with us sharing that, seeing the feedback from the devotees, also makes me feel that you are doing as much as you can, and Krishna is surely taking note of that. Like we were talking today, like especially those offerings that we try to give of our own life in moments very difficult are way more impactful for Krishna than if our life is nice and smooth and everything is in place. And we may offer something to Him and pray to Him, but if in a moment of extreme difficulty we still try to move forward and surrender, that will be especially attractive to Him. No? So that's what I can say today. I know I'm not trying to create full, how to say, so many more things can be said, and sometimes we need to stop saying things also. Instead of talking too much, sometimes we need just to be present for one another unconditionally, and let the other person know, here I am for you, here we are, no matter what, and you can count on me, you can count on us, always unconditionally. Sometimes just having that certainty in the midst of everything else being uncertain allows us to survive any storm and even grow from that. You know, like, yeah. I hope any of that helps.
Generally speaking, when I get like this or I get overwhelmed, I try to go out to distribute for a while
Mm-hmm.
because it'll take the pain
Mhm,
away. Because
mhm.
I've been forced to
Mhm.
preach,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just, people think like you're going to preach a whole Bhagavad Gita verse, to people at, in front of a bar,
Mm-hmm.
in front of a biker bar.
Mm-hmm.
You're not usually, but you'll get somewhere.
Yeah.
And it makes your life feel like it has value
Mm-hmm.
because you changed someone's life. They even asked you a question about Krishna. They noticed a picture, and so even if you're suffering
Mm-hmm.
and you're feeling like I shouldn't even live anymore, I should follow my husband.
Mm-hmm.
All my life, I've been giving the girls a hard time. I've been telling them, I'm asking Mahara, I've been telling them, oh, you want to kill yourself over a guy? You want to jump in a fire? Why don't you have a life of your own? Why don't you have a career of your own? That's how I used to be. So I guess Krishna had to pull the rug out from under me for me to see, oh, it's okay to be attached. It's okay to follow an advanced Vaishnava. It doesn't make you less.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I get a lot of help. I love all
Okay.
my girlfriends.
Okay.
I get a lot of help.
Yeah.
And
So.
they always want to hear my book book distributing stories.
No.
I mean, I'm hardly out there at all, but at least if I meet some people,
Mm-hmm.
somehow I'm really lucky. Like people, Krishna sends me, especially if you work around Shands or any of those places to eat, by those hospitals. You meet so many people and they're suffering more than you. They have a baby that's dying in ICU. They have a husband, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so you can actually help them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're very open at
Mhm.
that point.
Yeah.
So I just try to do that
Mm-hmm.
to mitigate pain and suffering.
But
I don't
help.
know what else to do.
No, that's great. But also, help yourself, love yourself, and also that helps. You can give others even more love and more help. So it's to balance, right? Not just helping others at the sake of helping yourself and loving yourself as Krishna loves you, like spending time knowing, how Krishna loves you, how Krishna fully accepts you. Those are very healing, at least in my opinion, healing meditations. Just staying some time in that space of Krishna already loves you and has accepted you fully. No, you don't need to be perfect for him to love you. You don't need to perform on some level for you to be part of whatever. That's already happening. And allowing time to be there, allowing yourself time to heal and to receive that, I'm sure that also will help. And that will give even more impact to whatever you can share to others. It's like, and one thing will nourish the other. So balanced, in a balanced way, like you are doing now today. It's not like you run away to distribute books. You open your heart and you experience your pain, and you are grieving together. It doesn't mean that the whole day will be doing the same thing, but there's place for that. And it's important to, I can express, feel, and I'm not judged, I'm accompanied, I'm supported. That vulnerability in a safe space brings empowerment as a result. So now then you can then extend that to others. But sometimes we need to cry, and we need some shoulder to be there. It's okay. We don't need to run away from that. It's human. We need to keep human. We are humans also. We want to be human forever. Krishna is human also, fully divine and fully human. So if we want to love him, we have to be fully human also. Not only fully divine, fully human also. So thank you for sharing your words, which are helping us to be more human as well. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. So Shamala?
I don't have to ask a question if that's where you want to wrap it up.
You have to ask a
I have
question.
a question, but I don't.
You have no
I feel like
other-
that was like such an amazing finale.
Everyone is bringing their highlight. So everyone is a beautiful.
Everything you said really ties into, like, I feel like in some ways it was already answered, but I just think about my own life and how it can feel very like, I don't know, mundane is the word, but just like doing the same thing every day, monotonous, but like, is it really Krishna conscious? Like, we have cows that we take care of, which it's a big responsibility for us. We milk every morning, and well, my husband does, and so I always say, okay, he's doing something in line with Krishna, because Krishna loves cows. But like, it doesn't feel like we're not having like spiritual experiences, like we're raising 3 children, and it's like there's no time. Like, I don't have time to sit and chant.
I know.
They're all there.
Yeah.
And if I do pick up my beads, what's going through my head is, see, Krishna, I'm trying. It's not like send more or like disrupt my life. It is that just like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And so like, I just wonder, like, am I doing enough? Like, because my day is so full, but is it full in the right way?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that, as we would like Tim always to say, we have to be careful not to create this dichotomy between material life and spiritual life, like, because sometimes the both have this idea, especially if they are grihastas, which happens to be 99% of the community. Like, okay, I have my material life and my spiritual life, and you create that dichotomy. Okay, my work, my family, my children, my attachments, my dark well. You label all that stuff in that way, and you make that mundane. And spiritual is my Sunday feast and my half a round I can chant in the morning. My verse, that's my moment of spirituality, and the rest, puff. So I don't recommend that outlook. I mean that's self-perpetrating sabotage to your own existence, because you will be doing that for a few decades. So you won't have a nice time labeling all that as mundane, while you can see, okay, raising my 3 kids is my sadhana. It's part of my sadhana. I'm not saying that replaces your rounds and forget about the rounds. You have your kids. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying let's have common sense, and we know that certain chapters of our life we will have to be more focused on some things. So now the challenge is how I see Krishna here. How do I conceive all this as service? Because everything can be bhakti. That's Jiva Goswami's idea of Sangha Siddha Bhakti. Everything can be connected to bhakti if we have the proper outlook. No? So again, these 3 souls, your children, amazing souls sent to your life by Krishna, you have to educate them, so to say, and you have to be educated by them in the process and learning so much. And I'm sure, I hope. So you have your spiritual, you say, I have no spiritual experiences. I'm not so sure. No, with 3 kids of that age on a day-to-day basis, I'm sure you have more experiences than all of us put together. The thing is that we see them as such, instead of like, oh no, this doesn't count because it's outside of the temple perimeter or whatever. So that's why it's so important to frame experience properly, because with proper framing, everything is bhakti. Well, proper framing, raising my children is my offering to Krishna, instead of something that I feel that is taking me farther and farther from him, and distracted and attached and falling and blah, blah, blah. Is the opposite. It's helping me to be more responsible, to be more human, to give an example, to surrender, to be open to wonder, to have daily experience, blah, so many things. But again, how we frame that, and of course, to frame that properly, sometimes we need some time to hear the things. So we are reminded on a daily basis what my day is actually about. So that's why also I will suggest, as much as one can, when one can, to have those moments of listening or sharing or talking or praying. So one is for a moment, okay, what's all this about that I call my day? What's all this? Raising children, cooking, cleaning, milking. Okay, and put that on like in proper frame, proper context. So okay, day starts now. But you have in one way or another, that's why every one of us ideally is recommended to do some morning sadhana, so to say, start morning like deep connection with the purpose of my life, basically. So when the day starts, I have spent some time trying to understand what's this day about, what's this life about, right? So again, some days that may even not be possible because you awake and all the 3 kids are already like, Mom, I'm hungry, or whatever, the cows is mooing and the world is calling Shyamala, right? But again, as much as you can, you made the arrangement. As much as that's beyond your capacity, you try your best, you're willing, but sometimes if it's beyond that, it's no purpose like chastising yourself or thinking I'm to blame. I mean, you follow my point. So I'm trying to keep it as that. I mean, I trust your sincerity in terms of you being introspective and saying, okay, I'm being complacent here, I'm being escapist and trying to avoid stuff, or I'm really willing to do that, but also there are circumstances and I'm trying to connect those circumstances with Krishna. So as much as you realize I'm trying to do that, I wouldn't say there is a reason to pick a whip and you still could do more. I know you. Of course, you can always do more, but also we have to balance that, because if it starts to sound like whipping, that's not constructive. I mean, you won't be practicing that much longer if you start to have that orientation. It's like you get depressed, it's functional, negative oriented, and how much that will last is unsustainable. So yeah, I think it's important to I mean, that's the teaching of the Bhagavatam. Like whatever you do, it can be connected with Krishna. Bhakti is so powerful, so generous, it can affect all our day. No, I mean, you see Yashoda, she's all day. Of course, her son is Krishna. But somehow, and I've talked to so many devotees about that. Like Ganesham, who was here, he told me also that many times you can even see your child and somehow be reminded of Krishna and Yasoda with Krishna, and your children can act as udipana, or like stimulant of like, oh, how is that vatsalya going on between? So if there's proper connection, it's like your children is sending you to the lila in one way or another. So, and yeah, and again, finding Krishna in the messiness of daily life. And don't over idealize that Krishna only will come when I'm detached and sitting on a cave and floating and I will hear the flute. He's already coming in all the messiness and ordinariness of the daily life. He likes that. That's why the Braja Lila looks ordinary. Vrindavan doesn't look extraordinary. Vaikuntha looks extraordinary. Vrindavan is like village setting, normal, ordinary. Of course, if you look in detail, it's like, wow, this is beyond Vaikuntha. But in general, it's like it's couched in ordinariness. So the point is, Krishna likes that, and Krishna will reveal himself especially in those crackings of ordinariness, in those moments. But we have to be attentive. We have to be looking for that. If you only expect him to appear from a cloud above instead of from the mud below, so to say, we may be missing lots of opportunities. So yeah, I think I quoted this 108 times, and here it goes 109. Thomas Merton, one of my favorite Christian mystics, he will say, your salvation begins in the most ordinary moments of your daily life. That's when your salvation begins. In those moments when you feel this is the most ordinary moment of my life. That's where open yourself to God in that moment. Look for him, pray. Oh, he's there. He's even there. That's my point. He's even there, especially there. He extends himself, especially in what you feel it's ordinary, to make it extraordinary. So, yeah, we have to keep the daily reminders about that. And even in that way we can take advantage of the so-called ordinary. That will become a portal through which Krishna will be trying to talk to us. I don't know if that helps at all.
Everything you said.
Thank you for your question, and thanks to all of you for your questions and presence. And very happy again to be very happy to my tooth and my root canal, which forced me to be back here again to do some dental treatment in Alacha. So thank you to that. And Krishna appears as a tooth also. No? He can appear anywhere. So I'm glad to be now I understand the purpose of that pain that I have to go through a few days. That was not a joke. But now I'm reaping the fruits of that with all of you. So thank you so much for that, and hope to see you soon, and somehow or other keep in touch. Sri Sachinandan Gaur Hari ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai, Hari Nam Sankirtan ki jai, Sadhu Sangha ki jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Bo, Vancha Kalpataru Vishra Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Hari Bo.